Speaksies.
This is the True Podcast.
True Podcast.
About a few acquaintances
forced to stay at home and have their feelings recorded.
Find out what happens when people stop going out
And start getting real.
About toilet paper.
We're your hosts, Scott and Erin.
This is Panic at the Costco.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me do introductions real quick. So Erin and Sara have talked a little bit. So, and then Chris, this is Erin.
Nice.
It's confusing because it's not my ex-wife Erin, as you may have noticed. And she has an ex-husband named Scott. Is that right?
Yeah.
So weird, but anyway, she's my podcast partner.
Okay, well, I was gonna let you know when I caught the email, I was like, what the crap am I getting into? Like, I was a little bit nervous. I was like, maybe I should opt out of this. I mean, I just want to get like weird, but anyway, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's been confusing for more than one person. Oh, and Erin's be married to someone named Mike, and her current husband, Erin's current husband's name is Mike.
Yes.
All right.
It's a very weird, and on numerous occasions I have texted my ex about the podcast. And actually the first one I texted him and I said, something about the podcast. And he's like, we're starting a podcast?
And I've definitely texted the wrong. I've texted
and you've emailed, I think.
Erin with like some sort of kid thing like, hey, I'm going to have to pick Logan up at whatever time. And then she'll be like, I don't think you meant this for me. I'm like, no, I just thought you might like to know when I'm going to pick Logan up.
Podcast fodder?
Yeah. So... so thank you guys for joining us. So we're doing a back to school episode, but first I think we should just talk about, well, first of all, it's been 2 months since we've done a podcast, and I guess I just wanted to throw out to the group, like, do you guys think things are weirder now, or were they weirder 2 months ago, or are we just used to the weirdness? Like, I feel kind of numb to I'm just like living life confused and I don't know what's going on. What about you guys? What do you think, Sara?
Definitely confused. Things change all the time. We're told one thing and then we're told another. And then, I was actually emailing my principal today because I was like, I just need to wrap my head around a schedule. Like, just give me like some guidelines on that. And once I have a schedule in my mind, I feel like I'm going to be okay. But I think there's still hope that they want to go back and they don't want to. I think there's all that. So yeah, it's just my anxiety's been a little high about it, but I've just learned I'm just going to have to go with the flow, which is very hard. I like schedules.
We should probably mention that Sara and Chris are teachers. They are our guests, and Scott and I are parents. Sara, you're a parent. Are you a parent?
Yeah.
Chris, you're not a parent. Okay.
Chris has dogs.
We've got a dog, and he's holding a gorgeous French bulldog. So we've also got the parent perspective coming up here too. But it's really difficult for people who are not used to going with just the flow of life, which I think are most of us, except for like a few yogis and spiritual gurus, there's just nothing concrete, right? Like, it's just, there's metrics, but then we had some metrics thrown at us today and about reopening and not reopening, and there's guidelines and no guidelines and too many talking heads, and you have no idea what to believe, what to implement. I was telling her, Sara, earlier when you guys were trying to figure out the call, I do not envy teachers right now at all. I do not envy you for this task in front of you.
Yeah, I feel like too, I'm really glad you guys were willing to join us because I think we're going to get into, we're not going to ask you like super specific questions about, who's your favorite student, Chris? No, but I do want to kind of get into y'all's heads a little bit as we go on, but just overall too in life. I mean, you talked about wanting a schedule, Sara, and it's weird because I think there are people that knowing that things can change any minute, it causes anxiety or stress. But then, like, I'll tell you, I'm at the point where I stress less because let me give you an example. Nick, I guess might as well just start talking about school right from the get-go. This is the back to school special. I got an email from our school. So my kids go to private school and they're going to have school. Like, it's going to be socially distanced and classes start on August 24th. And a lot of people were like freaking out, like, no, this is terrible and everything else. And I was just like, why are you even getting stressed? Because the odds of something not changing in the next week seem very slim. You know what I mean? Things are just changing so much that it's almost like, don't even worry about getting stressed about it because it might change anyway. I don't know. It's kind of a weird way. It's like an anarchist way to look at it, I guess. But what about you, Chris? You you need that schedule, or you just going with the flow? You look like Matthew McConaughey, like in a Lincoln right now, just kind of going with the flow.
No, I actually like thrive like on like a schedule. Like I'm a massive nerd.
Yeah,
so like when all this happened back like in March, like I was like, every lesson plan gone. It was like we had 3 days to basically, because we were prepared to do distant learning because we've already done it before, like last prior with like snow day or like a hurricane day. So we were like ready to go. It was just more of we had to like hit a pause button. We had 3 days off and we had to get everything structured for our kids. And we did finish the school year out. And but it was just really, really weird. Like, everything you kind of like you're set for. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. It's like, nah, you can't do that. So, and even now, like the summer, like I've been working, and we have a plan and everything. But we also have a plan if this happens. And then if something happens, we have this plan. But like for me, like I'm super organized and I'm learning like in my old age, like, I have to like stretch myself because like, okay, I might plan for this, but it's going to get, I know it's going to get scrapped. So it's like, as I'm working,
right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I already know it's going to get scrapped.
Then do you kind of, do you like not put as much effort into the plan knowing that it's going to change? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
No, I would. I wish I was that person and just not give a rip, but yeah. I'm just not that way. Like, because everything
like me to not care. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it was strange because like beginning of the school year when we started, like we normally start like at the end of August, but we're actually starting September 8th, which is like the first for us because we start like pretty early and get out like by 1st of June. But we're supposed to do like this big thing we did last year with all of our kids, like our high school, middle school group together, just to kind of get bonding going on. They're like, Chris, we're going to green light it. I'm like, okay, cool. And I started planning it. And then like the next week, Northam gets on there and like just jacks it up. So that already got scrapped.
Let me say this. I think we're not going to say what schools you're at, but Chris teaches at a private school, which and Sarah teaches at public school, both in the Virginia Beach, Chesapeake area. So it'll be interesting to see the differences. So Chris, you guys are actually planning on having kids in the classroom.
Yeah. Like I had got guidelines. I actually went last week. I had to set my classroom up a specific way. I have like a own little bubble area where I teach.
Are you serious? You're going to be like John Travolta, boy in the bubble while you teach?
No, seriously. Like I've taped off like where I'll be and everything, but we're going to keep, I think like between 18 to 20 in a room. That is like that. And with schedule, they're going to be like, I'm pretty sure as they get dismissed, they'll get dismissed at different times, all those things. So we got like all these stuff ready, but also what we're also doing is if a family is maybe not too stoked about sending their kid back in the first 9 weeks, they can actually do the distant learning. So we have these cameras like installed. So as I teach, a kid can still be on the couch, popping in through, I think, because we did Zoom. I think everyone did Zoom at the, in March, but we have some sort of Google something or other. I'm probably jacking it up, but so they can, that's what it is. And they can like pipe in and they can see me teach. They can see all my slides, my PowerPoint and everything. So
like what kid wouldn't, I guess kids that don't like to go to school can talk their parents into doing that. Or do they have to have like a doctor's note
Well, I honestly, I really don't know. I didn't ask those questions. There might be like a couple of kids, like if there's like as a family member that has like a severe health issue, I kind of get that. That makes sense. But I know as the kids, they want to be in school because they want to see their friends. Like they don't, it was kind of cool for like the first couple of weeks to like, wake up and like not get dressed and like eat a bowl of cereal and do your work. But then as you don't see your friends, all the sports stuff got scrapped, it's all jacked up. So, yeah.
Well, and so Sarah, Chris, you are still doing middle school, correct?
Yeah, I'm in
so
middle
Sarah,
school.
you're elementary, right?
Yes, I'm kindergarten.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. So I guess that's a big concern for me because I think one of the things that I really try to do is build that relationship with the families and the kids. And, when it went virtual in March, I already built that relationship. Mm-hmm. So these little babies are coming in never being in school. And I guess maybe the pro is, well, they don't know what they're missing anyway. So like maybe it's going to be good. But I can't imagine having synchronized lessons with 20 kindergartners that like don't know my rules, don't know my procedures, don't have any stamina to sit there and I mean already the first month in school is like herding cats. So I'm not quite sure how kindergarten's going to work, but I think the city tells us, they want so many hours synchronized. I think that we're going to have to build up to that because I just can't imagine, being on a computer with 20 and even small groups. This summer, I had the opportunity to do the summer school. So, and that was my first chance to actually have live lessons to where, in the spring, we did a lot of asynchronized learning where we, I was sending them videos, they were doing stuff, they were sending it back to me. But during the summer, I did live lessons. And that was very interesting. And these are kids that were already exposed to school. But, trying to count with them, orally counting to 20, it was like a nightmare. There's, one kid throwing everybody off, and then I can't imagine these little kids not even knowing their name starts with a letter. I don't know if my name starts with a B. Like I can't even. It's going to be really interesting on how that all works. But I will say, doing summer school, what I found was great was I was really worried about being able to connect with kids that I didn't know. Like that was a big worry for me. And I connected with them right away. Like they were showing me their dogs, they were telling me about their family. I could tell they loved me. They loved being there right away. So that gave me a little hope that that connection can still be made. It's just having to go about it a little differently.
Now, how many hours now this was in kindergarten, your summer school, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So how many hours did they have to sit in front of the computer and learn?
So lessons were supposed to be between 30 and 45 minutes. And I had a small group of 5 or 6 kids. So my lessons for them usually were right around 30 to 35 minutes. And even like at the end, like about 20 minutes in, they'd be like, can we see that schedule again? Can you show me what's next? How many more things do we have to do? So 35 minutes I found was a good time frame for a small group. And this, when I did Zoom calls in the spring, it was probably about the same, about a 35-minute, Zoom call. But those were always fun calls. They weren't like academic calls.
Right.
So it'll be a little different.
Like I worry about, kindergarten, first grade. My son's going to be 5. He didn't make the cutoff to be in kindergarten, but thinking about how are they going to do this teachers going to do this from 9 or 8. Well, we go 8:30 to 1. And then it's office hours or, small group instruction. I mean, that's a long time. I'm sure there's going to be some getting up and go noodling type of stuff, but how do you keep their attention for that long? And I'm not a teacher. And that's one thing I have learned over this pandemic. I am so glad I did not choose that as my career path because I would absolutely suck. So, but how are you going to do that?
I think I'm going to do something where I'm trying to get them to know each other. Like every day at the beginning, I'll probably do a whole group story that we'll talk about. And I'm in my classroom now, most of my day is small group. So I have a kindergarten assistant, thank the Lord. She's wonderful. So I plan on us dividing and conquering. So my plan, and I don't know how this is all working, but I want to get with each kid one-on-one, kind of see what letters they know, how high they can count, and then make groups. And then I will plan to do like I did in summer school, like a 20-minute group. My assistant will do a 20-minute group with each kid for reading and math. So they're going to see both of us every day for 20 minutes, small group is my plan. I really hope to start that by October. That way it's not as overwhelming. And then when they're not with me during that time, I'll give them some independent work where they aren't on the computer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How much of what you guys, for both of you, what you're doing came from input from parents over the summer? Did you guys, like, I know a lot of places have done surveys or is it just, look, we got to figure out what we're going to do based on the law right now? Do you know the answer to that?
Well, I know like our school's done like a poll and everything, to see what the feedback is, like, do they want to go and all that junk like that. But, we have to follow the guidelines. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that, that's kind of like, because they're kind of ever changing. But, really with trying to just make sure we can keep, like, at least for us being a private school, we need kids to come to our school for us to stay open. So that's kind of like our big thing. But as of right now, I know like we're doing really, really well, because some people are going to maybe take their kid out of public because they want their kid to, whatever. So it's kind of different. I mean, I don't know. It's the same thing. Like, I can't imagine like the public school busing system.
Oh yeah.
We don't bus, but that I don't even know what that even looks like. I guess like an ulcer just thinking about that. Like, thank God I don't mess with that stuff at all. But.
And most school systems don't have enough bus drivers anyway, so that's going to be a real challenge to get. They'll probably do staggered times is what I'm thinking. We haven't really heard, but I will say that my school division has done an amazing job of getting feedback from us and parents. I mean, it's almost overkill. We're always getting an alert that there's a new survey that they want us to fill out. But from the teacher's side, our superintendent does like Zoom calls where there's pediatricians on, nurses on, and kind of gives the feedback. But really it comes down to what our governor says is what I'm understanding. But we are really trying to figure out a way to get at least the younger ones back in and get kids back in as soon as we can. But it's just a tricky situation.
So I've been asking, whenever they're handing out the surveys, to provide metrics and data, and how are you determining this? It can't just be what the parents want and what the teachers want, and maybe they're the different things, and what the students want, and whatever. You have to provide some data there. So actually, right before our call, I was looking at the school board's metrics, which they did provide, and like, according to World Health Organization, we shouldn't be going back. According to World Health Organization, we're like, in our county, we're like almost 8% positivity rate, where they're really looking for, I guess, 5 or less. So we are, okay, that makes sense to some people. Some people may still, say, well, who cares? It's still not that bad, but that's what World Health Organization said. And so like, now that we're starting to get the data, now we're starting to get, real percentages and information, which, like, that's what I want as a parent. Let me just see all that. Let me, that's part of my decision. It's not my whole decision, but like, where we are, we don't have a decision. It's just, you are going virtual, everybody. And they're going to get back to school in cohorts. So like you said, Sarah, the younger ones, special needs go first, and then it's like kindergarten first and second, then third, fourth, and fifth, then middle school, then high school later on. So we'll see, but they're supposed to reassess every 2 weeks is what they're doing. So talk about being on edge. Like, we're going to be watching every 2 weeks, like, okay, are we going? Are we not going? Are we going? We're not going.
And I think even the thing that worries me is, let's say they give us the go back. So, I'm establishing my routines. I'm establishing, the relationships and the learning, and then somebody gets COVID in the classroom or a parent has COVID, and then they're going to shut us down for 2 weeks to go. I just don't want the flip flop.
Right.
Like, I'd rather just them say, you're just virtual. Like, let me just wrap my head around that and go with it. But then again, I want the kids in the classroom. So it's just back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah. Before, I have a question for Chris, but first, I just want to know who's snoring over there. Which dog is that? Hank?
It's got to be the big.
I apologize. I have Hank to my left, and then I have Gus to my right, and I apologize. And they're like encroaching on my personal space, and I apologize. So, can you edit them out? I might have ruined this whole thing.
No, you haven't. It's fine.
Right.
Listen, all you have to do is go back and watch. On this podcast, we've had crying babies. We have kids come in complaining. The best was when your son Erin said it smells like roast peppers in the house, and he couldn't go to sleep or something.
Not even just like it smells in the house. He's like, it's roasted red peppers. Did I even have roasted red peppers? I don't know, but he was very, very specific. And I'm like sitting on the Skype call, and we, obviously we're doing the YouTube, and I'm like, you can see my face like contorting, like upstairs. But it's in the time of COVID, you just have to deal. I had two pugs, and I was on many conference calls where they were like passing gas, snoring, and I'm like, it's not me.
Yeah. So Chris, I was going to ask you too, like, Sarah's been talking about the challenges of, kindergarten. I can't even imagine.
You're brave. That's good stuff. But you're brave. That's awesome.
Yeah. But for you with middle school, I feel like there are just as many challenges, just different. Like, how are you going to be able to tell that your kids aren't like playing World of Warcraft, or what do kids play? Not Warcraft, it's Call of Duty or Fortnite or they're going to get somewhere around this technology to where they're right. How are you going to make sure they're paying attention, or do you just like whatever, it's on them at this point?
It's difficult. I don't know. It's really weird because I got like a good taste of it because we were scheduled to do like Mondays were my Zoom meetings with all my kids. So like I had a Zoom meeting with like 56 8th graders. So I like muted them, but then I started looking up the little chat thing. We're like, hey Mason, how you doing? Talking. I'm like, all right, turds, stop, pay attention. Let's go over this real quick. But that is hard, and I think really from my perspective is like some kids who are going to pay attention and want to learn, they're going to do it, and then you're going to have their typical kid that doesn't give a rip anyway, and that's on them, and there's only so much I can do because even with this, like I was actually super impressed when we went in this whole thing the end of the school year, like my kids did a great job. Like I was really, really shocked. Like they were on board. They were turning in their assignments on time. And, there's a very, very small percentage that won't do anything. And I would say, go mom, hey dad, Junior isn't doing their work, or she's not, what's going on. Like, we're sorry, that type of stuff. But,
I feel like, do you feel like this year is going to be, the expectations are going to be different all around? Because at the end of last year, it was just it was like this new thing. I know I, as a parent, thought, well, this is crazy, but it'll be the summer, and then everyone will be back in school next year. So you sort of felt like you could write it out, but now it's like, no, this is now the new thing for a school year. So I'm wondering if like the expectations are going to be higher from the parents, but right.
I thought you were about to say the new normal. I hate that statement.
I haven't said it purposely because I'm sick of it too.
The new normal. I gag. No, I really was like just really wanting to kind of get through the year because the year just felt shot. Like I was so disappointed that I didn't get to see my kids. My 8th graders were awesome. Like I had a really, really awesome 8th grade class, and I loved them to death, and didn't get to finish the year out with them. And then like the 7th graders coming in this year, like I knew them, but now, I knew that I got to know them a little bit more, but it was kind of like, I just want to get this whole thing over with. Kind of, that was my perspective.
But now it's like, hey, I'm not going to say it.
Oh, don't say it.
But I'm saying it. But now it's like, this is, you can't just go in with that perspective now. Right. It's like, no, we actually have to like do this from day one, and you have to assume that it's going to be the full year. Like Sarah was saying too, it's almost better to have that mindset because Logan, my son, who's going into 8th grade was like, yeah, we're going in, but we're only going to be there for a week. Somebody's going to get COVID. And I'm like, no, there are protocols. There will be. And I'm like, he's probably right. Like, who knows? But you still have to go in with the mindset that this is how it's going to be all year. And I guess they should probably learn something. Not that you guys weren't thinking that anyway. I'm sure you were. But I know if I was a teacher, I'd kind of be like, let's just ride this out with, back in the day when we were kids, when they would just push in the cart with the VCR. I would just have that mindset for the rest of the year, but you can't kind of do that.
So
I don't know how it was in Richmond, but at the last, or even at Chris's school, but the last quarter, we didn't do assessments. I mean, we made sure kids were on and that they were doing their work, and I had to report if they didn't do their work or I wasn't able to communicate. But this year we have to do assessments. So I'm wondering how that's going to look, because I mean, kids can cheat. Kids do cheat. Like, I mean, I think about especially the middle school and high schoolers. Like, I can totally see that happening in the older elementary. I mean, even I had a parent, like, if I said, give me a word that starts with N, I see the mom in the background, like, doing
oh
this.
yeah,
and I'm like, write your name. The mom literally comes over and writes the kid's name, and I'm like, Mom,
Aaron, did you do that? Be honest. I can see Aaron doing a little bit of like, sounds like.
But then I really don't know. I can't teach.
Right.
I've thought about that too, like how, especially in, middle school, high school, where, they know better. They know that how they can get around it. Don't you remember, like putting all the answers in your graphing calculator? I did.
Oh, I remember the kids that did that.
Over the hat, turn your hat around, Chris, put some answers under there. Not that I want to give all my cheating secrets away, but it is a concern. Like, what are you supposed to do with, how are they going to give like AP tests and all of these other? I think our county is eliminating the standardized tests for this year, if I remember correctly. There's been so many emails and things thrown at us that my brain gets lost around it. But I also, you were saying, Scott, like, oh, well, your son said, oh, we're probably going to get COVID anyway. And while there are lots of protocols, like, are you guys thinking about that as teachers? You guys are pretty young and spry, but like, what about your 60 plus teachers that are, a few years away from retirement? Are they coming back? Are you guys scared for yourselves? Are you scared for them? Like, what's the feeling?
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant, but anyway, no, I think, this is horrible. I'm not joking. I think I got it in the winter, and only why I say this is, in January, I'm also a basketball coach, and our team got like the crud, and it was weird because like I got like a bad chest cold. I felt horrible, and it wouldn't go away. Like it wouldn't go away. And I asked my wife like what to do. She's like, look, it's probably viral, just, whatever. So, but it ran through the whole basketball team, and that there's a reason why I think we had it. But I don't think we did, but it was really bad. But then as my wife,
Chris, I want you to name names right now.
No, I can't because but like it literally wrecked our coaches. Like we all had it and it wouldn't go away. And that was pretty bad in January. But with me, I mean, I was fearful when this all kind of happened, but I asked my wife like straight up. I mean, she's in the ER. She got, even there's protocol for them. Like they told me if she comes home and if she's been exposed to it or she gets it, I have to like go and sleep in the spare bedroom for 14 days. And then I have to go get tested. So for me, I'm not scared of it. If I get it, I get it. I've had pretty severe flu, that's kind of how I feel like if that happens. My thing is that, I don't want to get to like my parents are in their 70s, there is older teachers. Like, we just had one of our teachers that have been there for like 20 some years. She just retired. Like I would feel like garbage if, I gave it to her, but I'm really not fearful of it to a certain extent. I mean, hopefully like after this conversation, like 2 weeks, like I'm in the hospital, but no, I mean, I understand there's a genuine fear about it. And I know like, kids think like they're bulletproof, they are not going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, there's a mindset. I know there's different opinions out there with it. My whole thing is like, I'm already a germaphobe, and I've been made fun of for years because I have like a keg of hand sanitizer in the corner of my room. And
Okay.
I don't.
Chris and I were roommates in college. I have a picture of that dorm, but like, I have a great picture that I took of Chris. I won't share that picture. It's the
Thank
worst
you.
because he came back from the shower. He was so disgusted with how filthy the room was, and he just ranted. He just,
Yeah.
you hated me back then because I'm we're like the odd couple when it comes to that stuff. But anyway, I remember coming up the stairwell in the dorm and be like, oh God, because Chris would use a whole canister of Carpet Fresh in our one little dorm room.
Yeah, like
He'd lay it on. You're supposed to shake it on. He would lay it on an even layer about a half-inch thick over the entire rug.
It was bad. I was out of control.
So,
yeah, I was out of control a little bit. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, like I've always kind of like kept my desk clean. I've always kind of done that. I mean, I say this and I tell my kids all the time, I call them filth monsters. Like middle school kids generally are pretty gross. I mean, they're just not to be mean. They're gross. They're gross little kids, and I love them. But
Gross is kindergarten, I will tell you.
Sarah, you have me beat, I'm sure. But like,
Sarah, you have one son that's going to college, right?
Yep.
I want to hear what's happening with that if you want to talk about it.
Sure.
Not the controversy or anything about where he's going, but just going to college. And then as far as you have an 8th grader, seventh grader, and then
that's crazy.
Junior.
What's Rocco? Junior.
He'll be a junior. So I'm not really worried about COVID either. I like that we have been given options for those kids that are high risk, and teachers too. Teachers have the option to teach virtually if they want to, and they're going to figure that out. So like if I was high risk and I said, look, I have a doctor's note, they would find a job for me to be teaching kids. It may not be my school. It may not be what I want to be doing, but they're going to find a job for me to teach. But yeah, so I don't really know so much about colleges because it's interesting because everybody I talk to, all of his friends have different protocols. Like I know kids that are going to UVA and they have to be tested and quarantined, for two weeks before. I think ODU's the same way. Andrew doesn't have to be tested. From what I understand, they are going to in-person classes. Mm-hmm. They are not having any big events. Any big events are televised. From what I understand, I haven't heard much about the football season, which I know he's really looking forward to. But they haven't changed.
Is he playing football?
Oh, no. He's going to be on the powerlifting.
No, he's like a power lifter. He's like a big dude.
He's going to be on the powerlifting team. So he's excited about that. And there's a meet in September that he's training for now. But they seem pretty like trying to go back to as normal as possible. Like he's still going to have a roommate. He's still living in a quad with, 6 guys, I think. So they're really trying to make it normal. Now I think I'm most worried about Rocco, who's a junior, because junior year matters. Like junior year is your last year that counts, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, this is how you're applying for colleges. He's wanting a soccer scholarship. There's just a lot that we're not sure about.
Right. It's not like one of these years that you're just like, 7th grade sucks anyway.
Right.
Like not saying 7th grade sucks anyway. Any 7th graders that might be listening to this, but
yes.
But yeah, junior year is a big year. Yeah.
Junior year is a big year. So I'm concerned about that for him.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of junior year, me, Chris, and Sarah had some great times back in junior year. we had, that was the year of the epic snow day we had, which, speaking of snow, you remember that, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Virginia Beach blizzard. We had
planted trees. You know that hill we went to,
yep.
Farrell Parkway. They've planted trees all along the bottom of it now, so nobody can sled.
Yeah, because some urban planner saw Sarah going down, or like, there's no reason for any of us to be alive after that.
No.
We were hanging on to the back of BJ's parents' full-size van with a boogie board tied to. We were sliding down overpasses. We should be dead, but I feel like snow days. We need to they're gone now, right? Like,
I've wondered that.
Well, I mean, because
we don't know yet. Yeah.
There's no.
If we can do virtually, I mean, we could do virtually,
That's
right?
what I'm saying. I mean, I know for work, like snow days went away a long time ago because you have your laptop and it's like big whoop. You're not in the office, but you're still working. But anyway, so I don't remember if I mentioned this earlier, but the Chris and Sarah and I know I did before we got on the call. Erin knows, but grew up together and we never went to the same high school, but I went to school with Chris and then I ended up going to school with Sarah, and we have some great fun stories. Our lives are intertwined in many ways.
One juicy tidbit about Scott right now. Go.
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot, Chris. You go.
Oh man.
Well, okay, he had a really awesome car. It was an old. What was it, Scott?
Lincoln Continental.
Lincoln. And it was blue, and I got him some dice that hung from the mirror. But yeah, like that was an enormous boat of a car, like that you used to drive.
Yeah, Scott, you and I always got into music, so I remember we went and got Green Day Dookie and Tools on tape.
I just told this story. I was talking to Steve about this story. That's so funny. Yeah, just to flesh that story out, since this will be actually the third podcast where this has come up because I interviewed a guy in a local band and we were talking about going to get tapes. But yeah, going to the mall and Chris, do you remember?
Go to the mall. Yeah, I'm speaking of COVID. I don't do.
No. I'm not saying the mall. I'm saying we went to the mall. We went to
Lynn Haven Mall.
Was it Camelot Music?
We went to Pembroke to Camelot, and then we went to Lynn Haven Mall, and they had was it Coconuts? No,
Coconuts was
over there by Fair.
That's where I got Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness was at Coconuts, but I think it was Sam Goody maybe.
Yeah, and we'd go to the record exchange.
Yeah, anyway, sorry, we'll just sit here and list all this.
Okay.
Chris and I basically lived. I'll tell you, what I remember is living at Chris's house and eating all his food. I definitely would eat your parents' food and drink your mom's diet.
Did your mom have all the junk food? Did your parents have all the junk food?
It was really weird. Like, I should have been obese. Like, I should have been a diabetic. I should have been obese. And I wasn't. I was skinny as a rail, and I couldn't. But like, my parents would go to there's like a Hostess store, and they would just get it was Twinkies, honey buns, and we just had like I don't know, but we always had Oreos and Chips Ahoy, and we had these the barbecue sandwiches from Sam's Club. Oh, they're so gross, but we eat them all the time. I don't know. Yeah. So people would come over our house and just eat. We just had a bunch of stuff there, and it was really weird. And
Steakums. Your dad used to make steakum sandwiches all the time. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, the Hot
Pocket. I've never. You said a Hot Pocket?
Yeah, Hot Pocket.
I've never had a Hot Pocket before in my entire life.
That's why you're still in shape to this day. It's not that you go running. Trying. You eat one Hot Pocket, it's like.
Yeah, it's too easy and just too addicting. Well, I don't know. I lived off those in college. Not good.
By principle, I've lived this long. By principle, I'm gonna go out without a Hot Pocket ever. I don't want to ever ingest one, just to say that I haven't done it. I can go out that way, my eulogy. He never gave in.
It's good to have goals.
Yeah,
my goals are very, very low. That's how I sort of thrive in my life. Is I keep them really low because failure is always an option. So it's good times.
Do you have any goals like that, guys, Sarah or Erin? No, seriously, any sort of weird. I'm never gonna eat a Hot Pocket. Mine is I'm never gonna eat at the Sizzler. I never have. I mean, trust me. I've had many trips to the old Golden Corral growing up, but no Sizzler.
No Sizzler.
What about you guys?
I'm never doing Taco Bell again. I'm never doing Taco Bell ever.
Says that, and then they do it.
The Cinnabon Delights are delicious.
I've gone numerous years now, and I'm gonna. It's done for me. Sorry, but it's done for me.
Well, one of our roommates, Mike. Remember Mike Jones had a streak of not vomiting of like 15 years or something, and like every once in a while I'll check in with him on social media. He'll be like, "Dude, the streak is alive." I'm like, "That's awesome, man!" Like,
Wow.
so you got to have goals. Sorry, we've completely gone off the rails. I'm sorry.
My goal that no, I wouldn't say, yeah, maybe it's a goal, but I have never said Y apostrophe ALL out loud.
Are you? Well,
Yeah.
she's a Jersey girl, so.
Well, but I was raised here. I've never said it, and I will never say it.
That fits the category that we're talking about. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Does like your relatives say like you have a southern drawl or anything like that?
My relatives up there.
Yeah.
Well, my parents were from Staten Island and Brooklyn, so they still 35 years, I think they've been here. Still have an accent. They have never said it either that I know of. But you know what? People tell me I have zero accent. Like usually they will comment that I have no accent, but I think people up there, I have heard a few times that I say mall the wrong way because to them it's a mall because that's the right way to say it.
What rhymes with mall and starts with a Y?
Well, you won't catch me there. You won't trick me, Scott.
Sarah, do you have any sort of random?
I can't think of any.
Come on, we're gonna put you on the spot until you.
I know I can't think of any random goals. I can't think of any.
No, she's too organized and got her calendars
No,
and
I'm definitely not.
all of her goals
I
are.
wish I was more carefree.
Hey, by the way, you have like a food blog, right? Or it's just your Instagram?
I used to keep up with the blog. I do have a blog, but I haven't kept up with it. But yeah, I love to cook. So
and you're vegetarian now, right?
Yeah, but I had fish the other night. It was the first time since January. But Adam swears he's never eating meat again. So
well, tell us about that. Why?
So I don't know if you watched Game Changers on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
So
went down that rabbit
hole. Game Changers on Netflix, and my family has a history of like every health ailment ever. Like my mom had a stroke last year. She's like 66. You know, my dad has dementia and like is like he's not even 70, declining really quickly. You know, heart disease runs in my family, the whole thing. And so after watching that show, it was all about clean. You know, vegetarians have clean arteries, blah blah blah. And so we were like, you know what? Let's just cut it out. And we literally, like that day, we just stopped eating meat. And so the weird thing is I've gained weight. Like I don't understand it. So
Wow.
Adam and I both have. But anyway.
You gotta take the next step and go vegan. You gotta go vegan then. Well,
because it's cheese.
Too. It's the cheese.
Yeah.
Sorry, Scott. I know you love cheese. We've talked about that on many
cheese is my biggest vice through the pandemic. I'm just like power eating cheese.
Right.
But it's so I watched that, and then beginning of the year, January 1st, I did the vegan thing for 8 weeks, and it was pretty crazy because I love cheese. I love cheese, Scott. I get it, but didn't have it in my life. And then what's weird is that like my blood pressure, the dentist, and it was not that I had high blood pressure, but she's like, this is 99 over something. I'm like, is that really low? Should I not be vegan right now? And she said, no, it's fine. But that's what happens when, you cut out a lot of animal fat. Yeah, I'm not trying to preach to anybody because I just had pizza the other day. So, but I just tried it as an experiment, and damn if it didn't do some things.
Well, listen, just not that I want to give you guys fitness advice, but before, about an hour before this call, I had myself whatever they call a big Montana now, like the biggest roast beef,
This is Arby's.
And a big old sweet tea from Arby's. and so when I said I was tired, you guys might have thought it's because I've been working so hard, like maybe I've been out in the yard. No, it's that huge roast beef sandwich. I pounded that. I was like, I'm ready to go to sleep, man. This sweet tea is bumping.
I love Arby's though, because like they just took ownership of having the meats, right? So
Right.
screw veganism, screw whatever trends you've got. We have the meats. I mean, there it is.
Yeah.
It's, you know, in your
Yeah.
face. We're not trying to beat around the bush here. It is what it is. And they sucked you right in, Scott.
Oh yeah, I get the cravings where I just need to have some Arby's, man. I hadn't had that in a while, but yeah, I should probably switch up my diet at some point. But anyway, so Chris and Sarah, I have a teacher question back to you guys, which sort of relates to. I was actually thinking about this and wondering, and it kind of has to do with our other podcast, Origin of Speaksies, that I do with Chris's brother, Steve. And by the way, Erin, aren't they just exactly the same person? There are no two brothers that are more different than Chris and Steve. It's like Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger twins. Not from a visual standpoint, but just from like they're so different.
The backwards baseball hat versus the ascot. I think that probably
Yeah. So, but my question for both of y'all is, and I guess not so much you, Sarah, since you're teaching such young kids now, but you've taught for long enough. You guys have taught for quite a while. Not to age us too much, but I mean, you've both taught since college, like immediately, right?
20.
And here's my question. Do you keep up with like the lingo and the stuff that is being said, or are you just lost? Because I know like I have one 13-year-old and I have to get him to explain what he's talking about. I don't understand. It's like another language, and that truly means I'm old. Do you just tune that stuff out, or have you been able to, do you keep up with it?
So I know Rocco keeps me in the loop. Like he's my urban dictionary, I guess. But so that's how I keep in the loop. But you know, I don't know. What about you, Chris?
What about you, Chris? With middle schoolers, I would think over the years, I mean, you've gone through the phase of like something's like fat and all that. Well, I mean, that was when we were in high school, but then like
no cap.
Yeah, like what the?
Yeah, basically every school year there's like there's a new trends that all the kids kind of swallow up, and they do it all. And I have to be aware of what my kids listen to. Like I don't listen to the radio. Like I mean, I don't listen to the radio, but not like MTV plays like videos anymore or anything like that. But I have to kind of familiar myself with what is like the hot artists or whatever this summer. Like I'm actually right now, I know you guys have probably heard this, but I'm actually dreading like because right now like Cardi B just put out a disgusting song. And I know what's going to happen. There's going to be some kids going to talk about it or play it, or it's going to be whatever. And I'm like, I have to have this conversation. And I've had many of them, but it's just one of those things where I try to keep my ear to the ground. And because this thing is like, for my job, what I teach and what I do is like, the culture and trends is just really, really weird. And there's a lot of garbage out there. And I don't want my kids getting caught up in that mess anyway. But from how kids talk and everything, but also what also helps me out is because I'm a basketball coach, like my basketball players always keep me in the loop of things, like whatever the new app is. Like, like 2 years ago, there was some app that all the guys were on. Like, man, you better get off that. You're going to get in trouble, stuff like that. So it's just one of those things where I try to keep myself, like I'm old. I've been teaching 20 years. Which is, I got like an award. I thought I was getting fired, but I got an award. But it's just one of those things where I do want to know what's kind of going on, but it is constantly changing. And I told the kids numerous times, like, this is like the worst song I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, dude, let me show you some other music, or like that TV shows. Like that's one thing too. A lot of the kids they so much garbage they can get a hands on. Like back in the day we watched Saved by the Bell, Full House, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We watch Martin. These kids, they like they say, yeah, I watched the show. Ever seen it before? I'm like, where'd you find this? Or like, oh, it's not on Netflix. It's on this other streaming service and stuff.
Well, they all watch YouTube. That's what I found.
Yeah.
It's like that is the. I get now that I say that, that's probably like kids don't even use YouTube now. Now that I just said that.
No, it's actually.
There's probably some new one, but
You know how like kids was like, I want to be an NFL player or I want to be an actress.
Yeah.
All these kids tell me now they want to be a YouTuber,
YouTuber.
and I'm like,
because like a handful of guys people have made a ton of money.
Right.
yeah.
They think it's attainable though, because they see
Right.
there's
Oh,
this
yeah.
person who looks, like me. I can do that. My son runs around and we do not let him watch much YouTube. He watches this one guy that he loves, the bottle flipping. Dude, perfect.
Right.
Bottle
Yep.
And he will take around his own tablet. He thinks that I am posting this to YouTube. He's
Right.
asked to post this to YouTube. I'm like,
Yeah.
sure, just keep recording. And he'll go around. He'll be like, hey guys, what's up? I'm blah blah blah. If you like me,
and subscribe.
subscribe below. If you comment below. All right, today we're gonna do this. Now my 3-year-old daughter has caught on to this, and she grabs the tablet and goes, in her babbling language, like, I come see me and I'm going to put my comments. I'm like, I can't deal with it. You guys and then they're just, they're not allowed to watch this stuff, but the one thing that they're watching, it's like, and then you can go down that rabbit hole too. Like, that's what scares me for kids is the YouTube and bringing it back to this conversation with like virtual learning. I think a lot of parents have the concern of like screen time, even virtual learning being screen time.
Right.
Well, it's funny because my kids have never really been the screen time. They're not on their screens. They never were. But since the pandemic, it's like I have 2 that are on it all day long. And like my middle schooler will have sleepovers, like virtual sleepovers,
right.
And they're up till 2 doing whatever they're doing, having a FaceTime in, and there's a big group. And it's like, but it's their way to socialize. So we're trying to find that balance. Okay, you're socializing, but it's just, it's something they've never done. And now I feel like it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping for a routine when school starts a little, it'll be better. Because we didn't want to limit them to a certain degree because that's their only way of communicating.
Yeah,
I think, Sarah, like I've gone through that exact thing where I felt like a bad parent because my kids are, on a screen half the day or more. I'm at home working. And I'm like, okay, guys, you have to for an hour go outside, or like you have to do this, or we're gonna do this together. But like I'm strapped to my laptop. I'm busy all day long usually, But then I had that same thought you did, which is like, you know what? Logan has like 15 friends. I know who all of they are, who they all are. I can see their chats. I hear them talk. Like, I'm like, that's more friends than I had at that age, So it's just the difference is I was riding my bike over to Chris's house or somebody else's, whereas they're just getting on a screen. But gosh, what would we have done at that age?
I
it
thought
would have been
that.
hell.
Swatch phone like all day long.
I mean,
not being able to see your boyfriend or girlfriend or your, it would just be crazy.
3-way phone calls would be like that. Because remember back then it was like, we're going to get a third person on the call, That'd be the best thing you could possibly do. But your parents just take it off the phone. They
have to do to what helps keep them sane. And like, especially if you have extroverted kids, which, I'd say 2 of my future YouTube stars are, they want that interaction. And like, if they're up late, like sometimes you just unfortunately have to turn a blind eye or to some of this stuff and you can't get too hard on yourself. Like I have gone through that where I'm like, I'm a terrible parent. They're watching way too much screen time and they're going to rot their brains and they're never going to learn. And you know what? Like we're in a pandemic and we're working. Right. I mean, I'm a working parent. My husband's working at home and we just have to juggle. And sometimes you got to watch more movies or screen time. Like it is what it is. And I'm telling you that, trying to convince myself.
No, I think we have to keep telling each other this stuff. Because I need to hear it every once in a while that like, okay, it's not just me. But we've been going through watching a lot of 80s movies, like John Candy movies and old Tom Hanks. Like we watched The Burbs the other night with Uncle Buck. Like, so at least those, I feel like they're getting cultured, even though, is that really culture? But it's better than
it is.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can make up a sweet movie list.
Dude, seriously, do that. Give me any ideas you have, because Rad is out. Is Rad kid friendly?
What was kind of weird is like they got some profanity, but I was like, I don't remember like when I was watching it when I was like a youth. I would never like.
So have you gone to that website, Kids in Mind?
No.
Okay, so a website, Kids in Mind, and you can type in any movie, and it rates the language, the gore, and the sexuality. And I mean, to the T, like they hugged for 3 seconds. Like, I mean, it tells you everything, which is awesome.
I need that because I'm going to tell you.
I do it all the time.
So what's it called again?
Kids in Mind.
Kids in Mind, because we watched like The Great Outdoors the other night, and like for the most part it's great, but then there's just like one scene where you're just like, oh my god, like I can't believe they're talking about this explicit sex act like in the middle of this dinner, and I'm just like, fast forward, or like whatever.
Right. Yeah, I'm telling you, that's the best website. I mean, I do it for my 16 to 17-year-olds, so I'm like, nope.
Yeah. Sometimes you forget. I forgot about Back to the Future.
Yeah, Back to the Future. I was thinking that too.
Yeah. We've watched that a million times, but it's just like after the first time of seeing it, it's just like, well, Biff does get punched and it ends up turning out okay, but there's definitely a moment where you're like, oh my gosh. Anyway, okay, well, we're coming up on an hour here. I don't want to keep you guys too long. So I guess I have a final question for all three of you. Unless anybody else has something. I'm not trying to kill the conversation, but what are your predictions? Or should we even make predictions? Is that stupid? I'm just curious how you guys think the year is going to play out at your school. What about you, Chris? What do you think? Or do you can decline and just instead...
No, it's fine. I always thought like, I was super excited that our headmaster was like, we're going to get our kids back. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to follow the guidelines. And I think that our school has really, I don't know if the proper term is like they've overthought. They're like, well, what if this happens? Yeah. Which is great. Like I already have like in my hand now, like I have a schedule in case we do have to get shut down for a few weeks. Like I already have like another schedule, which is so they're being so proactive. I figured we'd go back and eventually sometime like in the fall, whenever the colds start kind of coming up, there might be some panic and we might get shut down. Because I've thought before, I don't know about you guys, but like when flu season hits, there's always been that time where teachers get it, the kids. Like I remember even this past year, there was a day where there was like 8 kids got sent home because they had fevers. I mean, like, why don't we just hit pause for school for 2 weeks? Let's go home and like, take some NyQuil and let's get, get straight. So I've kind of felt that this year that will probably kind of go back and forth a little bit. That's kind of, I mean, for me, I'm bummed out because like our statistics, I think like 80% of our kids are involved in athletics. Like they'll either play a fall sport, a winter sport, or spring sport. So our kids are active and like, our baseball and softball team and soccer team didn't have nothing last year, like nothing. And so like, I want to see our kids be able to compete and do those things and to have that high school, moments and playing in those things. But I really think that we'll flip flop back and forth a little bit. And I'm okay with that because when that happens, I can still go to my classroom. That was the big thing is when I was here, like I'm an introvert, I'm a homebody. I love home. I love this couch. This couch is great, but man, I miss being in the classroom. Like I miss seeing my kids and interaction, those things, and even my coworkers. Some of them that I like, I like to see them. So that's kind of where it is. So I think it'll be a little bit of a flip flop.
Okay. What about you, Sarah?
I just don't know. Like I really just don't have a prediction. Like I think that they'll probably try to go back, but it's such a large school division. I don't know how they would work it because like one kid gets COVID in one class and then like your class goes home. I can't imagine like how it's going to be. I don't really have any predictions. I could totally hear the snoring.
Yeah, he's having a good dream right now. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think my wish is that for parents to really reach out and try to connect with the teachers and just be like, hey, my kid's struggling with this, or hey, you're doing this well, or like, hey, how can I help you? Like, cause it's just gonna be rough. And I think, I just hope parents really do understand, like because I mean, you're kind of like, yeah, whatever happens. But I think some parents are so over it, which I totally get.
Right.
Especially these parents that have to work and that they're having to literally leave maybe a 6-year-old at home to get on virtual by themselves. Like literally, that's probably happening all over the country. So I just hope that communication as well, and that everyone's doing what's best for these kids. Like I just worry about these kids that are, they're the ones you're already worried about when they're in school. So those kids, when there could be 5 and 6-year-olds home alone trying to figure it out themselves, or with an older 10-year-old brother. Like it's just, I can't imagine, because their parents are in that situation. Yeah. So I'm just hoping for really good communication between parents and teachers.
Well, I don't know about you, Sarah, but like it's difficult to like train we were kind of prepared for it, but like I put so much time trying to stay on top of, my 80 students, it was like, it wasn't like a 7 to 3 job. It was like at 10:30 at night, I was grading.
Yeah.
Like grading.
And it's hard to reach out and say, hey, I haven't seen so-and-so in about a week. What's been going on? Because it's so accusatory. Right. Like, and I was always trying to come at it from like, I understand this is crazy and I'm trying to work with you, but I could tell in some of the responses, they were irritated that I was asking.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at before, is like, I wonder if this year, I hate to sound like this, but I wonder if that's going to get better or worse, only because they have to understand that you guys have got to do the job. I mean, you're doing your job. And like, there was one situation where Reagan hadn't turned in some homework, like, and if I thought she had, or there's some communication mishap, and I got an email, very nice, but I mean, it was like 3/4 of the email is, oh, Reagan is such a joy, and she's doing all this stuff, you're just like, all right, what'd she do wrong? And it's like, we haven't received the last 3 assignments from her, and right, and my first thought is like, well, how do you expect me, and I'm like, hold on, like, yeah, I need to make sure I'm on that. It's not, I mean, just because I'm working full time doesn't mean that like they don't, like, you guys in a way can't win, because if you don't do anything or say anything, you're not doing your job. So, but I'm hoping, so that's a great point there, Sarah, is like the communication. Plus, you guys, I assume, got into teaching, in part because you like to be around kids and help them grow and learn and stuff, right? Like, so you need feedback, because you're not getting that in-person feedback from the kids. So I'm going to try to do a better job of that. We tried to do things like write, cards to our teachers and stuff like that, and just encourage them, because I know it's got to be kind of rough. I mean, I don't know about you, Chris. You're watching CSI and on DVDs and you're fine, but
no,
you don't miss the 8th graders.
No, I do. The thing is like, I'm not, putting a cloud over my head, but like, I hardly ever get like an email like of encouragement, like thank you. It's always like, I was looking through your lesson plans and it's right there in front of you, but it is a lot of times parents get kind of irritated because their son said, oh, I turned it in. Why I got 6 zeros, and then it becomes my fault. I'm like, hey, bud, I got a Dropbox. I get like, when you turn an assignment, there's a timestamp. So I'm not lying, and I screenshot and send it to you. So, it's just one of those things. But
I think teachers need to do the same thing too. Like, I think, like, I try to send a postcard to like 5 kids a month, something like that.
That's cool.
Different kids, or a simple like text to the parents that, hey, I noticed they did this today. I think doing things like that to build that relationship with the parent is so important. Like, just to send a text that said, you know what, Scott paid attention on the Zoom call today. I was so proud of him. Like, a parent love that. Like, they just need those little things. And I think for at least, I don't know how elementary school kids, they don't listen to their parents. So like middle school kids, high school kids, they'll get on more than likely. They're going to take responsibility for some of the learning. But I had so many parents say, they just don't listen to me. Like, they just don't, they're not listening.
Right.
So,
right.
like,
in that capacity of like, the teacher student relationship that you have with them, where they're like, I need to listen to, Mrs. Brola versus Mom, I listen to all day. It's a different vibe. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Kind of?
Yeah. Because I mean, the kids that were never, I don't want to say brats, but they were never brats in class were totally different on a Zoom call with their parents sitting right next to them. Do you know?
So weird.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just different. So it's just going to be different.
Yeah. Well, Erin, do you have any predictions for how this school year is going to play out, or just the year, or anything?
Grant me the serenity. I think that we are not going back until like the spring. That's my prediction. I think that like I said, our county is going to look at this every 2 weeks, but I don't think that they are going to send kids for 2 weeks and then say, oh, the metrics change. We got to pull them out now the other 2 weeks. And I just think that that flu season has to play out and all this other stuff. And then when it starts to get warm again, maybe there's a chance we'll be back in like March. And a vaccine, maybe, I don't know. And so I'm like mentally prepared for this to go until March. And I trying to get my crap in order for all my kids' things. And I've got a preschooler. I'm trying to figure out, do I send him back or not? And thinking about other options, but you know, it's like there's, and I think one thing we all have to do is not, I mean, give each other and yourself some grace, right? Because everybody, I don't know one parent that's like, oh yeah, this is it. And this is an easy decision and this is how it's going to be, except for maybe Scott. No, but I mean, you know, everyone has weighed their decisions. Everyone's, you know, pretty much thought about, okay, is somebody going to get sick? Do I feel comfortable? And had these conversations with their spouse or their neighbors or whatever. And like, it's, you know, I've seen it like tearing some people apart, you know, tearing some friendships apart and neighbors apart. Like you just, it's crazy because, and I think when safety levels get involved too, we've talked about this numerous times on our podcast, especially me, like, you know, you have to be respectful, but you also have to do what's right for your family. And it's not always going to be right in somebody else's eyes. So you just, that's going to be a challenge, I think. But no, I don't think we're going back till the spring.
I was going to ask you, I'm not trying to take over the show, but just because I have 2 dogs, that's it. But like with you having kids, are y'all nervous about your kids at school with possibly, I mean, or do your kids show concern about it? Or are they just like, they don't give a rip?
Well, I'll speak real quick. My kids don't seem to worry about it, even though Logan is very responsible, very like he thinks through everything, like but he said he's not really worried about it. He's if he gets it, it'll work through it. And I'm worried about my kids in life in general, just about everything.
Right.
So as far as like just that normal sort of parental like everything, are they on their screens too much? Who are his friends? What are his friends like? Who's you know, what's he getting into? And Reagan too, of course. But Reagan's just still, even though she's 9, she just still seems like this little baby to me, which is it's weird. I can't explain it, but like I just think she's fine. Logan, I worry a little bit more about. But as far as with COVID, I'm not that worried about it. I don't know. I'm probably like totally opposite ends from like I know Erin with it. And it's not a political statement. It's not me. I don't think it's a pandemic or anything like that. I know it's real. I know it's and I know it's dangerous. And I wear a mask everywhere. I got masks for my kids. We wear them everywhere. But I don't think about it that much because, and partially like I know you said something from the WHO, Erin. I feel like I haven't seen that much of kids getting it, and maybe that's me buying into a soundbite that's not true, but I'm not sure. I thought I was hearing stuff that it was like, what's that?
I think it's just on the rise now because of school being, you know, back in session and just it trickling out into more suburban and rural areas and things. So I think there has been an uptick in kids, and it's been said over and over again, they don't get it as seriously, but I think that they do. You just never know. That's what sucks about this disease, is that you just don't know how it's going to affect your kids. So for me, like, I have my mom coming in, and she's going to watch my 3-year-old, because we pulled her out of daycare. So I have to be mindful of, her being here and in the house, and, who I'm exposing my kids to, and then bringing it back. And so I'm really torn on this decision to put my almost 5-year-old back in preschool, because they're snotting and touching and doing everything, and they are not going to be sitting at desks. They're all going to be, together without masks. So I'm considering the pod route. I know that's like kind of a controversial thing, but again, you got to do what's best for your family. And me teaching him all the time is not going to be the best thing for our family.
Well, I just want everybody to respect each other. I hate the like, we can disagree about things, and it's how understandable is it, because the data out there is so confusing. The messages are so incredibly different. Both sides of the political landscape are accusing the other side of like gaslighting. I mean, it's really understandable for people to come out on different sides, but we don't have to be mean to each other. I mean, and social media is the worst for that. I think, like, just getting into arguments.
I don't feel like they're giving us all the information, because I heard like Atlanta went back and like 79% of the kids got it. But then I like wonder how many were asymptomatic, how many were hospitalized, how many had it for like symptoms for 2 days. They're not like that information isn't
right.
Like they're not dissecting it enough, or they're probably dissecting it, but they're not telling us. Like I need to know all of it. So I'm a worrier too. Like I worry about my kids. I mean, when they have, this is how crazy I am, when they have voting in the schools, and I know they close it on election day in November, but they have those spring voting days where they're coming in to the schools to vote. My kids don't go to school. Like, and I'm like, I let the schools know. I'm like, my kids aren't going to school. There's going to be random people in and out of school all day. It's not safe. So I get it. Like, you're making a decision based on safety. People think I'm nuts. Everyone's.
I don't. I think you're right.
As you were saying that, I'm like, oh, this is Erin's loving this.
Never do it.
She's like, yes, girl, yes. You don't know who those people are.
Yeah.
I'm like, kids, you can walk to school today. Be friendly to the people.
Chicken.
Especially if they have candy. Those are the nice ones.
Well, gosh, guys, it's like good to know we're all, all in different maybe perspectives, but like everyone cares about each other, and that's the freaking point. So
I think it's made me a little bit awkward though, because I'm so used to like shaking people's hands, and now I'm like, hey, like I don't know, because I like, and then when I talk to them, I'm staying away from people as if like I got the the play, and I get, but that's just how it is now. Like, and that's, to me, is like I don't want people to think like I'm being a jerk, but I'm also trying to like, I don't know, because if you have a mask or don't have a mask, or if I don't have my mask on, are you gonna, I'm not trying to. That's my thing. So now I'm already awkward. So now this has made me like way worse now.
Well, Erin had a bunch of people try to crowd into under a little umbrella, a bunch of competitive bean, or what do they call it, cornhole people.
Cornholios.
You don't have to tell the whole story, because we'll save that for our podcast where you talked about that. But but there, you do get put into awkward situations where people get too close, or I've had people like okay, hashtag 2020 this year. Okay, let's start with Kobe. No, I'm just kidding. It's been a crazy year, right? I've also had to replace my roof in the last 2 months. My air conditioner was broke for 2 weeks. Had to get that. I mean, in the hottest 2 weeks of the summer, got that replaced. It's been like the worst. But I've had people like coming in and out of the house, and a lot of the guys that have come to do the work are like, I don't think they realize that there's even a pandemic. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, hey, buddy, how's it going? And I'm like. As a man, what do I do? Do I not shake the guy's hand? So I've shaken hands, and then I've just been like, I gotta like, I'm like Jim Carrey and Ace Ventura, I'm like doing the gum stuff. The crying game starts playing. But no, yeah, you have to. But in Erin's situation, not to tell your story, but we were talking about podcast stuff, and we were at this brewery, and we were like social distancing, and I got up to get beer, and all these people crowded, and she had to be like, "Could you guys go somewhere else?" Because like. I mean, Sarah, you would have done the same thing. I'm absolutely sure.
I mean, and they weren't. This was a strict, like, I'm not going to tell the whole story again. If you subscribe at pixies.com/origin of Pixies, they, were just clearly did not care what anybody else thought. They just sauntered in there like they own the place, no mask, like just a whole big group of them, and there were a lot of places to go, and it started downpouring, and they all came into our little 4-person umbrella table, and we had
they're like, hey, what about this rain? And she's like,
that's a kind way of putting what I did, but yes.
Yeah.
Well, what you don't know about Erin is she was talking about her family, and when she says family, let's just put it this way: if you want to know about the history of Erin's family, watch Fear City on Netflix about how the mob started. Have you watched it, Chris?
Yeah, I watched it a few weeks ago. It was great. I loved it.
I don't know how much
Erin
it
yet,
wants me to say, but
yeah, I haven't finished it yet, but I gotta check that out. But I really should have. What I should have said was like, "Don't you know who my family is?" But they would never have known. They,
that they might be sleeping with the fishes.
They might be sleeping with the fishes. Yeah, they may get a little horse head.
Exactly. A little Luca Brasi.
Anyway,
Brasi, well,
we need to
tell you what.
Conversation.
Yeah, I know. Tell me if you need me to edit any of this, because there's going to be some. What is it, like Omerta or some crap? Okay. Well, guys, I got to tell you, the roast beef is really starting to kick in, and I'm need to go to sleep soon. So, thank you guys for joining us, Erin.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you. We did another Panic at the Costco, and who knows when we'll pop up again. Sarah and Chris will catch up with you, I'm sure, soon, just to see how things are going.
Sounds awesome. Thank you guys for having us. This was great.
Thank you.
And happy anniversary, Sarah.
Thank you.
And
congrats.
Yeah.
Congrats.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right. Good night.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye. All right.
Speaksies.